Back in 2011, to celebrate Pokemon's 15th anniversary, I decided, as a YouTuber a couple of months into making content, to play through the entirety of FireRed. It's been 15 years since then, and now, to celebrate Pokemon's 30th anniversary, I decided to play through Pokemon Red with the same team I used back then to highlight the differences between the two generations, compare how I did things back then, and get back to where it all started. The run starts pretty normally. I choose Charmander as my starter and name him Burn, fight the rival, who I named after my good friend Jamie, and beat him with nothing going wrong. That's weird. For reference sake, this is what the song is supposed to sound like normally. Not quite sure what happened there, but we move on. I make it through Route 1 to Viridian City, get Oak's parcel, go back and get the Pokedex from Oak. In FireRed, he gives you Pokeballs as well, but he decides to be stingy here, so I go back to Viridian to buy some to catch the next member of our team, much sooner than when I played FireRed. This is Bishop, the male Nidoran. Bravely Default wasn't out when I originally recorded FireRed, so nowadays I probably would have named it after Adia's father, Brave, which would be more fitting since he's a king. Oh, yeah, I also beat Jamie again. Because Nidoran male isn't locked behind getting the first badge like in FireRed, I pretty much used the trek through Viridian Forest to even out the levels between Burn and Bishop. After reaching Pewter City, I make my way to Brock to fight for the first badge. Choosing Charmander puts me at a disadvantage against his rock types, and unlike the remake, Charmander doesn't have a reliable way of handling Brock with Metal Claw since the Steel type wasn't even a thing in Red. Luckily, none of Brock's Pokemon have any rock type attacks here. My strategy here is to use Growl to lessen the damage I would take and to take advantage of Geodude's lower special stat by spamming Ember. Onix is pretty much the same, but in addition to lowering its attack stat with Growl, I also use Bishop's Leer to lower its defense. Eventually, I take the win and get the first badge. Some notable things happen in Route 3. Bishop learns Poison Sting, and I meet the infamous Shorts kid. The reason Poison Sting is notable is because in Gen 1, Bug types are actually weak to Poison type moves. It's not something I take advantage of too often here, but it is a difference between the game and the remake. To end off the route, both Burn and Bishop reach level 16, evolving into Charmeleon and Nidorino respectively. Mount Moon is next up here. I mentioned before that the Steel type didn't exist in Red, and there happens to be a trainer here with a Magnemite. No Steel type means I can hit it with Scratch. I also don't have to worry about triggering Voltorb's Static with Scratch either, since abilities don't exist in this game. So I'll go over this later, but I do goof up here with catching Paris. I didn't need to, but at the very least it fills in the Pokedex. Upon getting a Moonstone, I immediately evolved Bishop into a Nidoking. Back in FireRed, I waited a little bit, but here, there really is no reason to wait. I also teach him Water Gun through a TM I found earlier in the cave for some early game coverage. Mount Moon is where we first encountered Team Rocket, and for the most part, they're nothing special, but there is one grunt who had Eradicate here that could be an issue if you're not expecting it. In the remake, this grunt has a Rattata instead. After choosing the Dome Fossil, I leave Mount Moon and head to Cerulean City. There's another rival battle here, and I still wonder why his starter hasn't evolved in this particular fight. On Route 24, I clear the Nugget Bridge challenge, then begin looking for team member number 3. This is Basil the Oddish. Route 25 is basically getting Basil caught up with the other team members. After helping out Bill, I head back to Cerulean and fight Misty. I'll be honest, I was expecting Basil to struggle against Misty, but she did well. Misty's Starmie is pretty tough at this point, but it not having a Psychic type move and being paralyzed with Stun Spore meant Basil was able to solo this entire battle. To make things even more awesome, she even evolved into Gloom after the battle. Upon making it to Vermilion City, I grabbed a bike voucher for getting the bike later. I then head east over to Route 11. Back when I recorded FireRed, I waited until I got 2 later party members before clearing this area. I don't think the experience I got helped too much, but here in Red, I feel this is a much better opportunity to fight all these trainers. Might as well point out that the Gambler trainer class in Red got censored to Gamer in the remake, the beginning of gambling censorship in the Pokemon series. I also caught a Sparrow to trade for a Farfetch'd in Vermilion. Just gonna say, Dux is a far better nickname than Sheding in the remake. This puts my total of obtained Pokemon for the Pokedex at 10, which is the bare minimum for getting the Flash HM. Because I don't have to worry about getting the National Dex like in FireRed, I don't need to worry about getting 60 Pokemon before beating the game. On the SSN, I beat every trainer there, as well as the rival. He also has a new sprite. I'd say his biggest threat at this point would probably be Kadabra or his starter, but even then I had no issue. After getting the Cut HM and watching the SSN leave, I make my way through Diglett's Cave and get the Flash HM. This is where I messed up with pairs. I intended to teach it Flash since it can learn it in FireRed, but that's not the case here. Oh well, it's time for the 3rd gym. I'm surprised at how quickly I solved the puzzle. Sometimes it can take a bit when it comes to finding both switches. Lieutenant Surge was easy for the most part. I tried not to rely on Bishop's ground type to have an easy win, so I mainly used Burn up until his HP was within KO range from Raichu's attacks. Our prize for getting the 3rd badge is much better than the Shockwave TM in FireRed. Here, it's Thunderbolt, which I'll be needing for the next team member. Next up, I trade the bike voucher for the bike in Cerulean and head to the east. I catch a Voltorb over on Route 10 and teach it Flash to make Rock Tunnel easier to explore. As an aside, it's pretty easy to navigate through Rock Tunnel without Flash in the first generation games. There's nothing for us to do at the moment in Lavender Town, so we head west to Route 8. Burn reaches level 33 here and learns Slash, which is going to be fun to talk about. In the Generation 1 games, critical hits work very differently. The simple version is, the higher a Pokemon's base speed stat is, the more likely they are to get a crit, so naturally fast Pokemon, like my next team member, will crit more often. And because Charmeleon and Charizard are fast enough, this works well with Slash's naturally high crit rate, meaning Slash will always be a critical hit. We then make it to Celadon City. There's a lot to do here, but the first thing on the agenda is getting the next team member. By taking the hidden entrance in the back of the Celadon condominiums, I acquire Eevee, which I name Bullet. It's a Spirit of Steel reference. I then head over to the department store to get both a Thunderstone and a Leaf Stone. I don't evolve Basil just yet, but Bullet immediately becomes a Jolteon. I also use a Thunderwave TM that I found, as well as the Thunderbolt TM that I got from Lieutenant Surge. There's a girl at the top of the department store that will give you TMs for the vending machine drinks, and dang does she give you great TMs here. Namely the TMs for Ice Beam, Rock Slide, and Tri-Attack. Way better than Light Screen, Safeguard, and Reflect in the remake. In the southeastern part of Celadon City, there's this one building I want to show. It's supposed to be a hotel, but if you notice, it's basically a reskinned Pokemon Center, to the point that there's actually a functional invisible PC in the corner where they would normally be. I guess they didn't notice that. I then head over to the game corner, open the way to Team Rocket's hideout, and lay waste to the grunts there. It was the perfect opportunity for me to train up Bullet. Giovanni was pretty easy. Bullet couldn't really do anything to Rhyhorn or Onix, but was able to clean house with Kangaskhan. By beating Giovanni, we get the Sylph Scope. Our last order of business in the city is the Celadon Gym. Erica was a decent challenge. Her Victory Bell's wrap was a bit of an issue. Unlike later games, if you get hit with it, you cannot do a thing until it finishes in a few turns. Same with Tangela's Bind, but I still take them down despite that. I then pit Basil against Vileplume. This is an instance where Erica's AI is her downfall. Because her AI sees that Vileplume's Poison Powder is a poison type move and thus super effective against Basil's first listed type, which is Grass, that's all it spams. But because Basil also happens to be a poison type, she is immune to Poison Powder. That means I can just spam Acid until it goes down. The prize for beating Erica in this game is the TM for Mega Drain, which is such a bad move for this point in the game. Giga Drain was what she gave in FireRed, and even there, it was before it got buffed in Black and White. With the Sylph Scope in my inventory, I head back to Lavender Town to take on the Pokemon Tower. There's a rival battle here, and him saying, "Your Pokemon aren't dead, but I can knock them the fuck out," is pretty messed up. And it's a bit ironic since I'm the one knocking his Pokemon out. I named the rival after my friend Jamie, but the real Jamie is much nicer in real life. I battle the ghost of Marowak and soothe its soul, beat Team Rocket, and talk to Mr. Fuji, who then gives me the Pokeflute. From here on, I open up the way to Saffron City. The remake made a small change in how you do so. Here, in red, you get a drink from the department store. Because you can make Pokemon hold items in the remake, in order to prevent early access by getting a traded Pokemon with one of these drinks, what you have to do is get tea from the old lady in the Celadon condominium. A lot of Saffron City is locked behind completing the Sylph Company building, but the fighting dojo is open. Burn reaches level 36 while fighting one of the trainers, and finally becomes a Charizard. After wiping the floor with the master of the dojo, I grab myself Hitmonlee, my 5th team member, and name him Bruce. Hitmonlee has it rough in red. Because the special attack and special defense stats were just the special stat in red, Hitmonlee suffers from a super low special stat instead of the pretty good special defense it has in later games. Bruce's type coverage is pretty bad here. The only damaging moves it gets are fighting and normal type moves. I was hoping to teach it Rock Slide like in FireRed, but that ain't happening. I then wake up the Snorlax west of Celadon. I don't have to catch it, but I do. I then use Cycling Road as an opportunity to level up Bruce. Upon making it to Fuchsia City, I head into the Safari Zone. Just want to point out this weird sidestep this NPC made. You don't see that too often in red. I then grab the gold teeth, the HM for Surf, and say goodbye to the Safari Zone. After returning the gold teeth to the Safari Zone Warden, he gives me the HM for Strength, which I then teach to Bruce. Time to take on the gym. There's a trainer whose balls dropped once I beat him. Koga wasn't that bad. The most annoying thing to deal with was his Muck using Minimize. I do like how there's a unique sprite whenever Pokemon use Minimize in this game, and in Generation 2. His last Pokemon is Weezing, and it goes out with a bang. The reward for beating him is a TM for Toxic, which I then teach to Basil. I then backtrack to Saffron. There's an NPC here named Mr. Psychic that gives the TM for Psychic. The Team Rocket grunt outside of the Sylph Company glitched with where he's supposed to stand. That was weird. The Sylph Company building is huge, and if you don't know your way around it, it can take a while to navigate it fully. Luckily, I already had my path planned out. First order of business is getting the keycard on the 5th floor. Normally, this is where I would then start going through every floor, but something else needs to be done before that. I use the keycard to open up this door on the 3rd floor and take the specific teleporter to where my rival is. After beating him, I get a Lapras from the NPC nearby, which is the final team member. I name her Breezy. She's named after a fanfic writer on the Cerebi forums back in the day that had Lapras as her avatar. I then teach her Surf and Psychic. You get Lapras at level 25 in FireRed, but here you get it at level 15, so there's some extra work to get Breezy up to speed with everyone else. Now to fully explore the Sylph Company building. I usually start from the very top floor and work my way down. The card key makes it so you don't need to take any warp tiles, except for the one to get to the room with the rival fight. The Earthquake TM is on the 10th floor, and that immediately goes on Bishop. There's a healing spot on the 9th floor, which I definitely made use of. Basil also reached level 38 and learned Petal Dance, which was the last thing I was waiting on before having her evolve into Vileplume. Now, the team is fully complete. The Swords Dance TM is on the 7th floor, and that gets taught to Burn. Those were the most notable things from going through this building. By the end of exploring, Breezy got a lot of experience. Not enough to catch up, but she gained a lot of levels. Round 2 with the Giovanni was pretty easy. The president of the company gives us the Master Ball. Spoilers, I don't use it. Now, it's time for the Saffron Gym. I'd say Sabrina in this game is among the more challenging fights. Psychic types generally have a good special stat, so they can hit hard and tank hits on that side of things. Sabrina's biggest threat is Alakazam. It has both a high special and speed stat, so high damage and criticals can be expected. It takes a combined effort of Bullet paralyzing it and Breezy damaging it to take it down. But with that, we have our 6th badge. South of Lavender, aka the Silent Bridge area, is up next. There's a ton of trainers here to beat. I also knock out the 2nd Snorlax. Not that I have enough Pokemon in the Pokedex for the item finder, but it's a shame there's no leftovers in this game. Breezy reaches level 38 and learns Ice Beam. Why waste the TM when it gets it through level up? That's pretty much it for that area. It's now time to explore the waters south of Fuchsia. After some surfing, I end up in the Seafoam Islands, and after solving the easy strength puzzles, it's time for the first legendary Pokemon of this run, Articuno. My usual strategy for legendaries is to paralyze them and weaken them before chucking balls. In Red, legendaries can actually dodge the ball if they haven't been weakened enough or if they haven't been inflicted with a status condition. Fun fact, in FireRed, legendaries have a slightly unique theme. Their theme is a pitched up version of the standard wild battle theme. Anyways, I came in here with 40 Ultra Balls. Here's how many it took to catch Articuno. I then backtrack to Cerulean and head east. It's time to head to the power plant. The Thunder TM can be found here, and it's the last brew Breezy needs. Zapdos awaits at the end. The same thing happens here. Paralyze, weaken, catch. It took 4 balls to catch. I then return to the Seafoam Islands and make it through to the other end. After making it to Cinnabar Island, it's time to open up the door to the gym. The key is inside the Pokemon Mansion. After solving the switch puzzles and making it to the basement, I nabbed the secret key. Time for the 7th gym. Ice-type moves are actually neutral towards fire types in Red. The battle against Blaine is a bit annoying. His Rapidash has Fire Spin, which works the same way as Wrap and Bind. Plus, it's fast, so I get hit with that a few times. His Arcanine is his strongest Pokemon, but I find it funny that I take it down with Bubble Beam. And that is our 7th badge acquired. This is where FireRed added a good chunk of content. In the remake, upon leaving the gym, Bill shows up on Cinnabar Island and asks if you want to accompany him to one island, the first of 3 optional areas for a side quest. Upon accepting this request, you can't leave these areas until you finish the side quest. I think the reason this side quest exists is to pad out more time between the 7th and 8th badge. To give a brief rundown, Bill asks you to deliver something to a friend of his on 2 Island. You can explore one island, and some of the Pokemon that you could find in the Pokemon Mansion in Generation 1 were relocated here, such as Ponyta and Magmar if you're playing Leaf Green. One island has the Rock Smash HM and Mount Ember, which is where the legendary Pokemon Moltres was relocated to. On 2 Island, you meet Bill's friend, the owner of the game corner that has 2 minigames that use the wireless adapter. His friend's daughter is missing, so you venture over to 3 Island. You take care of a bike gang, head into the Berry Forest, find the daughter, Lostelle, and finally make the delivery. That's it for that side quest. None of that is in Red. Instead, there's only the route between Cinnabar and Pallet Town for me to explore. I then return to Viridian City to take on the 8th and final gym. The gym leader here is Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket. The final showdown against him is anticlimactic. He specializes in ground types, so Basil and Breezy have an easy time. I decide to have Bishop take on his Nidoking because I have a fondness for mirror matches. His strongest Pokemon, Rhydon, goes down to the mighty Bubble Beam. I definitely got mileage out of this early game water type attack. And with that, Giovanni is defeated, I get the last badge, and he disbands Team Rocket. It's not like he was well respected enough by his organization that his loyal followers would resurrect Team Rocket to try to bring him back, and it's not like he'll resume his role as leader and try to rule over the established multiverse years later, right? In the remake, if you use the item finder where Giovanni was standing, you can find a Macho Brace. Bubble Beam stayed longer than I thought, but it's time to replace it with the Ice Beam TM. If you didn't notice, the Rivals theme right before this battle is slightly sped up for this one instance only. The battle starts with me taking advantage of the Rivals AI. Similar to Erica, the Rival will prioritize moves that are super effective. Pidgeot has a move that happens to be Psychic type, which is super effective against Bishop. That move is Agility. It's stuck spamming it. The only Pokemon that managed to deal damage was Alakazam. The rest of the battle was pretty easy. After making it through each badge checkpoint, it's time for Victory Road. Burn has a Charizard vs Charizard mirror match, which he wins. He also reaches level 46 while beating a wild Pokemon and finally learns Flamethrower. It was rough running Ember for the entire game. For reference, in FireRed, Charmeleon gets Flamethrower at level 34 before it even evolves into Charizard. Deeper into Victory Road, I come across the last of the 3 legendary birds, Moltres. This would be later than you get it in FireRed since it was moved over to Mount Ember on one island in that game. Anyways, you know the deal. Paralyze, weaken, and check this out. Only one ball this time. My luck this run with catching legendaries has been incredible. Moving on, there's a Lapras vs Lapras mirror match for Breezy to win. After beating the rest of the trainers, I make it through Victory Road. It's finally time to take on the Indigo Plateau. After some brief preparations by taking out items from the PC and buying supplies, it's time to challenge the Pokemon League. Lorelei is up first. Bullet takes down Dugong, Cloyster, and Slowbro. Jinx goes down to Burn's newly learned Flamethrower, and the battle ends with Breezy winning another Lapras vs Lapras mirror match. Bruno is up next. Basil takes down the first Onix and Hitmonchan. I was a bit worried that Bruce would lose the mirror match against Bruno's Hitmonlee, but he wins easily. Basil then takes down the second Onix and Bruno's Machamp. Agatha is third. Because there are no abilities in this game, Bishop's Earthquake takes down the first Gengar and her Haunter. He also takes down Golbat. The second Gengar goes down to Breezy, and Bishop closes things by beating Arbok. The last of the Elite Four is Lance. His Gyarados and first Dragonair fall to Breezy. I once again exploit the game's AI with his second Dragonair by having it spam Agility against Bruce until it gets knocked out. It's time for Aerodactyl, which loses to Breezy. I might as well use this time to talk about a quirk that Hyper Beam has in Red. Normally in later games, if Hyper Beam knocks out an opponent, you'd have to waste a turn recharging. But in Red, if Hyper Beam knocks out an opponent, you bypass the recharge it would normally have. That doesn't happen here, but it feels appropriate to mention it since Lance loves to spam that move. Lance's last Pokemon is Dragonite, which has such a cool sprite in this game. One Ice Beam is all it takes to knock it out, and that's it for the Elite Four. Before I take on the final battle, I use up my rare candies that I've been stocking up on as I played the game, and now it's time to battle Jamie one last time. Pidgeot is his first Pokemon. It has Whirlwind in its moveset, which doesn't do anything in trainer battles in this game. Bishop takes it down with Rock Slide. I send out Bullet against Alakazam. In Red, if the first hit of a multi-hit move like Pin Missile is a critical hit, then every other hit will be a critical as well. Alakazam was the Pokemon I was worried about the most, but luckily Bullet took it down. It only takes one Petal Dance from Basil to take down Rhydon. Bruce struggled against Arcanine, but was able to take it down after some help from some healing items. Exeggutor is next. For some reason, it only has 3 moves here, and its only damaging moves are all normal type. Breezy takes it down. Last up is Jamie's Blastoise. Breezy lowered down its HP, but I had to have Burn land the finishing blow. And with that, I am crowned the Pokemon League champion. Professor Oak comes and congratulates me, and inducts me into the Hall of Fame. After the credits roll, we're back in Pallet Town. In Red, the game doesn't heal you after beating the Pokemon League. Anyways, the only thing that opens up for the post-game is us being able to explore the Cerulean Cave. This place is interesting in that it has had different layouts throughout the years. The layout in FireRed and Leaf Green is an updated version of the layout from the Japanese Red and Green, which the Let's Go games and Heart Gold and Soul Silver also use, albeit with some changes done in those games. The layout that you see here is what Red and Blue got internationally, which is the same as the Japanese Blue version. Yellow also had its own layout. Also, for some reason, you can find Dojrio here in Red and Blue. While you can explore this place as soon as the post-game starts in Red, FireRed handles it much differently. In FireRed, upon beating the Pokemon League, Professor Oak approaches you. If you have at least 60 Pokemon registered in the Pokedex, he'll upgrade it to the National Pokedex. Now you can get Pokemon outside of the original 151. Before that, without the National Pokedex, if you had a Golbat or a Chansey with high enough happiness to evolve, a mechanic that wasn't in Red, these Pokemon would get to the evolution screen, then just stop evolving. Eevee also evolves by happiness, but because there's no real-time clock in FireRed, you are locked out of Espeon and Umbreon. Anyways, with the National Dex, you get a hint from the rival to return to one island. From there, Celio, the guy Bill went to see, asks you to go check out Mount Eber. Over there, you find some Team Rocket stragglers that opened up a new way. Exploring this new path lets you find a ruby to power up Celio's machine. You're then tasked with finding another item to power this machine, and are now allowed to explore more islands. This archipelago of islands, 1, 2, and 3 islands included, are the Sevi Islands, where you'll be able to encounter some Generation 2 Pokemon. On 4 Island, there's a daycare here, where you can place 2 Pokemon. This is FireRed and Leaf Green's introduction to breeding. More importantly, you get to explore Icefall Cave, help Lorelei with dealing with more Team Rocket stragglers, and learn that they're plotting something. Skipping over 5 Island and heading to 6 Island is how you advance the story. There's a place in the southern part of the area called the Dotted Hole. You need a Braille translation to figure out what to do, or just know from prior playthroughs. You use Cut to open the door and fall through the holes in a specific order to get to the bottom of the place, where you find the Sapphire. A scientist takes it to sell to Team Rocket inside of their warehouse in 5 Island, which is our next destination. Inside of the warehouse is a big puzzle that uses the arrow tiles from the Rocket hideout under the Celadon Game Corner. At the end, you fight 2 Rocket admins, and upon beating them, they vow to bring back Team Rocket. It's heavily implied through the Pokemon they use and checking a computer nearby that these 2 admins are the ones that lead Team Rocket as executives in the Johto games. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, these 2 executives are named Ariana and Archer. All that's left is to beat the scientist and get the Sapphire from him. Upon bringing the Sapphire to Celio, he upgrades his machine to let you trade with the Hoenn GBA games, Ruby and Sapphire, which is pretty on the nose. You can also trade with Emerald, but Emerald came after FireRed and Leaf Green, which is why there's no Emerald item. And that's the end of the post-game story. 7 Island is completely optional. Giving the Sapphire to Celio opens up a few things. One of the legendary beasts will be roaming around Kanto based on your starter. Raikou is available to those who chose Squirtle, Entei for those who chose Bulbasaur, and Suicune for those who chose Charmander. The Pokemon League, which was closed while Lorelei was on 4 Island, opens up again for rematches, and they are much tougher with some new additions to their team. And finally, Cerulean Cave opens up. That's a lot of stuff to do to access this place, unlike in Red. Anyways, I make it to the end of this cave, and find the last legendary Pokemon for me to catch, Mewtwo. I distinctly remember having a tough time catching it in FireRed. Here, I have a game plan to catch this insanely strong Pokemon. I'd lead with Breezy here, with the aim of lowering its massive special stat with Psychic. That way, it softens up how much damage I would take from its own Psychic attack. From there, I then go with Bullet to paralyze it, it then gets weakened, and I begin chucking Ultra Balls. It only takes 4 to catch Mewtwo and finish off the post-game. With that done, let's return to Pallet Town so I can give some closing thoughts. This run was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed playing with this particular team again. While playing through this, I was surprised at how much was different between Red and FireRed. FireRed was the first core series Pokemon game I played on the channel, so this team has a lot of sentimental value to me. I was 16 when I started the FireRed series, and turned 17 towards the end, not even done with my first year making videos. I don't think that particular series was good, but the fun I had doing it at the time I did it was super important to me. Not only are these 2 games the same thing in essence, but different, but I think of myself as being the same person I was back then at my core, but also a very different person. I hope you enjoyed this video. Happy 30th anniversary, Pokemon! Also, FireRed and Leaf Green are now available on the Switch and Switch 2. I hope you enjoy those games. Also, in Red, you can mess with this NPC's movements and get them stuck at the entrance to your house, or even get them to go to Route 1. Neat! Hey there! Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. This was my first time doing a run of an entire game condensed into one video. This isn't the only one I have planned. I actually have a long-term goal to cover every core series Pokemon game on the channel. Of course I've done Let's Plays and plan to do Let's Plays of other core series games, but I also want to do different kinds of challenge runs of core series games that don't end up as LPs. The next Pokemon game I'll be doing one of these videos on is Pokemon Blue, which you can expect at some point in the future. I already have all of the footage for it, which is a ton by the way. I just need to write a script and edit this massive undertaking down. And next up, I'm gonna give a shout out to my friend Rob, or Salamence as he is known on YouTube. He gave me some advice since he's pretty familiar with doing these kinds of videos, and I appreciate it a ton. His challenge run videos were actually a source of inspiration for this. Anyways, that's gonna be it. See you all for the next video, but in the meantime, be sure to check out my other stuff and follow me on social media. Later!